And first of all, I want to say congratulations to Mrs. Trump, our beautiful, wonderful, classy First Lady, on the debut of her documentary film. I know that it's a blockbuster movie in theaters now, and it's a really a great example of what the First Lady is truly like behind the scenes. And she has a great influence on the president.
It was terrible. That's Levitt's review. My review is it was terrible. And we'll get into that in a second. That's Caroline Levitt, the press secretary, hyping up Melania Trump's new documentary that we all, for you, this is what we do for you, went to the theater, watched, took notes, and now I'm going to break it down for you. But first, you actually have think about this, while that documentary is debuting, in the Epstein files, something that is pretty gross relating to the documentary. What? How does that even work? I'll get to it in a second. Welcome, everybody, to the show. This is very exciting, but we wanted to, in the new year, restructure a little bit the format of the show. And so if you've been a loyal viewer, you know that we used to do morning live streams that were separate from all the different videos in the main show that we do throughout the day. Now we're going to kind of blend the two. And this has been something a lot of you have requested. Instead of what we call the main show, which is the full body of segments that we record all at once, hour and a half, and then release just for the members. And then all of you get the bite-sized videos that get uploaded that are just individual segments. Instead, we'll do that main show live, noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. So be here if you like the longer format, but it will be all the content that ultimately gets uploaded later in individual video, more shortened versions to the YouTube channel. So if you don't catch it and you just want the individual stories, you can still watch those on the channel. But here in the live show tab, you'll have the full show. Very exciting. I'm pumped. And we'll be reading comments, super chats after I get through the stories, maybe sprinkled in as we go along. But let's continue forward with this story. I already told you that Melania Trump had this documentary, and the director was someone by the name of Brett Ratner. And he is a sex pest, which kind of made sense given who Melania Trump's husband is and who a lot of their friends were. But he's been accused of sexual assault. He kind of was MIA in the movie industry for a while because of those allegations. But as my phone is going off, excuse me, we're busy. But then his career was revived for this documentary. So there's something too perfectly terrible about that, being that Melania Trump would have directing her documentary someone who has those sorts of allegations against him. But then Brett Ratner, who made the documentary we're going to talk about in the segment, pops up in photos in the Epstein files. This is him with young women, girls. Their faces are redacted. Creepy photos. There's more. There he is. So of course this would be... This is my question. Does Trump or Melania have any friends who are not in the Epstein files? I'm not going to say how many of the friends are. It feels like all of them. How many of them or their associates are not in the Epstein files? I think that list is shorter. My goodness, here's the headline. Melania doc director found in creepy Epstein files photos. Brett Ratner, who was accused of sexual misconduct by 6 women in 2017, was photographed with a late sex trafficker. So that's gross. But now let's talk about some people. I don't really care about like the numbers of the film. I'm sure they're doing a lot of marketing. Apparently it didn't bomb as bad as I expected. Okay, egg on my face. But just because people went to it doesn't mean it was good. And I saw it with my own eyes and it was not good. So when we watched the trailer together, I said, and I'm kind of proud of this prediction, I feel like it's just going to be her walking around and picking out hats. Like that was sort of slightly satirically my prediction. And it was almost for real dramatic music as she walked around and got in and out of either vehicles or buildings. Those were the plot points. She's outside of a building walking into one. She's inside of a building walking out of one. She's inside of a car getting out of one. Or outside of a car getting into one. Or a plane with dramatic music. Or in very out of touch buildings with gold everywhere, designing outfits. And this was supposed to be, do you remember in the trailer it goes, everybody wants to know, so here it is. To which we said together, know what? What is it that everyone wanted to know? And apparently it was how she picked out that outfit, which, like, for some people who are into fashion could be interesting. But for it to be, wasn't it like 90 minutes? Like a full-length movie. For it to be filled with that much empty, meaningless space. And for it to be pretty dang out of touch. And it took a year. It was 20 days of footage they got. In between January 1st and January 20th, the inauguration. And it took a year to edit. And both the guys who are editors, both producer Jade and producer Cole, were saying, we could have edited this thing a couple weeks. Now, I'm sure more went into it than that. But, like, what was a year of work going into for this? So much surging to a climax. And then the climax just being her being like, I like that dress. And you're like, what? And then this was another interesting point. The number of immigrants around Melania Trump, the irony there, and Melania kept making, and some of her workers kept making points about the beauty of immigration, is so either a shot at Trump from Melania or an accidental shot at Trump. There was this one phone call that you heard in the trailer, but the full thing was just as bad, where Melania calls Trump. I can't tell. It was like on the day of the certification, and they get on the phone, and Melania says, Mr. Trump, or no, Mr. President, which I guess she calls him that. Mr. President, congratulations. And he says, did you see it? And she's like, no. And he goes, you should really watch it. She was like, I'll see it on the news. And then they go, okay, all right, bye. Don't say I love you. So they're as cold behind the scenes as I would have predicted. And then every single time Trump is featured and they're trying to make like a sweet moment, they're just pointing the camera at him. And either he says to the camera or he says to someone around, what a first lady, huh? What a great first lady. That's all you can think of? Is that the most thoughtful thing you can explain about your wife? There was one car conversation where you couldn't see them, but there was slight audio, and they're talking about Barron. So my point is, I think, Melania knew the movie was being made. Trump knew it, but like wasn't as involved, I don't think. So Melania and the director, Brett, Epstein buddy, was talking to Melania, Epstein buddy, who's married to Trump, Epstein buddy, and was probably saying, hey, we need some like humanizing moments of y'all talking in a car about your son, maybe. Say something about Barron, ready to go. And it was, Barron, huh? He's a good kid. I was like, what? If they were recording of my parents talking about me, that's all they could conjure up, I'd feel pretty insulted. The night of the inauguration, they walk into the residence of the White House, and Trump grabs some sodas and goes, good night, and just walks all the way in the opposite direction as Melania. It's like, not even on inauguration night, y'all don't spend the night together? What? And then there was one other moment where Trump didn't get interviewed much for this, but there was one moment where they caught him to talk to the camera and give a little interview, and it was when they were talking about it being the 1 year. Apparently, Jimmy Carter's funeral landed on the same day as the 1 year anniversary of Melania's mother's passing. And so they go to Trump to talk about it, and he's like, Melania's mom, what a great kid. Oh, wait, that's Barron. What a great woman. What a beautiful woman. Beautiful from the standpoint of in, from the standpoint of out, just sort of beautiful was his explanation. And then he goes, and I don't want to say this too loudly because she took it really hard. Talk about Melania. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Her mom died. Of course she took it hard. What do you mean? So if you want to see dramatic walking around to good songs, the music was good. The music design, sound design was good. But it's like Hollywood level production for absolutely zero plot and for 10-minute scenes of her just going, no, change. Oh yeah, bring the collar in. Okay, but cut the collar down. Okay. And then it's like, and she's like, that's how the collar should look. Then I guess watch the movie. But apparently other people had different takes. Like Nick Adams, who is a Trump administration official. I think he's an ambassador, but a wacky guy, said, "I'm settling in for a showing of Melania and the theater's packed. Earlier, a bystander asked if I was heading in to see Avatar, and I stopped dead in my tracks. Avatar? No, son. I don't watch woke movies. I'm here to see the groundbreaking documentary about how our incredibly talented First Lady." The man's two little girls began jumping up and down, pulling on his sleeve and begging, "Daddy, we want to see Melania." But, he stammered, "I thought you girls wanted to see Zootopia too." No, they said, now nearly shouting, "We want to see Melania. She's the most beautiful First Lady ever." That didn't happen, Nick. That did not happen. And if you don't believe that it didn't happen, if you believe it did happen, then look at his follow-up. "Just walked past Orange Theory on my way to pick up a hot black coffee and overheard half a dozen college women chatting about Melania after the workout. They were enamored with the First Lady's class, humanity, and business acumen. I didn't know she was so smart." "Period, sis," another chimed in. "I knew she was beautiful, but I had no idea she was so talented too. Slay, queen." So I think he's doing that slightly, even though he is a Trump supporter. So I don't know why he's mocking it with that satire. But apparently, here's CNN reporting it wasn't as big of a bomb as I predicted.
This documentary is a big success. We're going to get official numbers from Amazon later this morning, but already, according to the projections that are circulating in the film industry, this is the #1 documentary in terms of box office ticket sales in about a decade. This documentary...
How? I was looking at other numbers and other ones. What? Ron Filipkowski said 75 million, including 35 million for promotion, both staggering numbers for a documentary, then free promo from Fox, Newsmax, other media outlets, pushed by president to tens of millions of cultists. But yeah, 8 million opening weekend is a hit compared to $100,000 documentaries with zero promo. Yeah, isn't that, if they spent that much, is 8 million really that good? I don't know. So what a weird upside down world we're in. But apparently some people are watching it and saying, "Slay, queen." Despite it being the most plotless, meaningless. The only cool moments were the stuff I've already seen on TV. Seeing, it's not cool, it was sad for me, but an inauguration is interesting and big, or them getting out of a motorcade into Air Force One, in a sense, as a political junkie, is kind of oh, cool. But I already seen those things. That's not really something about her that made me go, wow, she did something. And the way they tried to advertise it was you're finally going to see what she did all that time. And it was answered to me. Walk around. And then she got on a call with Brigitte Macron and was like, "So as
Booyah,
you know,"
Navy.
and she's like, "I want to continue my Be Best initiative." I was like, "It is! It's Be Best drop. Yes!" Before we get into the next segment, again, to explain for anyone jumping on right now, welcome to the show. A little programming switch up in the new year that we're very excited about. One of the things that's annoying about members only, so we publish our full show that we record all at once, full length, right? The podcast, by the way, podcast listeners, nothing will change for you with this. We'll still just drop the full podcast for you, but and that's accessible on any podcast platforms. But the video version, if you're not on Spotify, which has a video version, has been behind a paywall for members, and then they also get a bonus show. The bonus show is staying behind a paywall, and you should definitely become a member, and it's a very good time. But it was kind of all the segments get released on the channel anyways, which if you add all this together, create the main show. And so that doesn't need to be behind a paywall. It'd be cool to do that live because we already record all at once, just not live. So now we're going to do it live. We can engage with all of you, read comments like Courtney saying, "Luke Live is back. Best news I've heard all year. Thank you so much." And then at the end of the show, we'll read all the super chats that come in. So if you have anything to say, send it there. And this will be our new Monday through Friday system of full show live, segments get uploaded as normal videos, and then the bonus show is still just for members. Moving on to this. I referenced the Melania director drop in the Epstein files. Now I want to do a deeper dive into, over the weekend and a couple days before, some of the newest revelations, and they're insane. I kind of am a little bit shocked given all of the cover-up that we saw from the Trump administration, I don't know if I expected them to release this many damning tidbits. A part of it feels like accidental. There's so many documents that a bunch of staffers who are less partisan are like, all right, here, I'll redact this, put this in the document, and they're dumping documents, and then they panic and will delete links and then re-upload links and freak out. So that freak out post-release, some of this stuff makes me think that a lot of what they revealed about Trump and others was a little bit of an accident. So we'll get into that in this segment. But first, here is Trump saying he just might have to sue over this all, which please sue. I want Trump to sue, whether it's him suing Michael Wolff, which is threatening, or the Epstein estate, because that litigation process, I think, would expose even more. But here's Trump.
What did you think of the latest release of Epstein files, and do you think your critics will be satisfied with?
Well, they should be, because it looked like this guy Wolff, who's a writer, was conspiring with Epstein to do harm to me. And I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, the radical left. That Wolff, who's a third-rate writer, was conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to hurt me, politically or otherwise, and that came through loud and clear. So we'll probably sue Wolff on that.
He's not going to end up suing. He does not want to be subject to discovery. He doesn't want more things to come out in court. He's just saying that as a threat.
I love money. Maybe the Epstein estate, I guess. I don't know, but we're going to certainly sue them.
And then he's saying he also wants to sue the Epstein estate. Now, how there was a conspiracy to hurt Trump politically that's Michael Wolff's fault or Epstein's fault, when to believe that, given where some of the documentation and record of this relationship dates back to, would have to be a conspiracy that was aware Trump was going to get into politics in 2015 that dates back to the 90s. I don't buy it. But in these documents, you do have a lot of disturbing photos. Epstein with very young girls. This is Prince Andrew. Also photographed, more of Epstein. You can see with the redactions to protect people's identity. But to get into some of the newest revelations, Midas Touch reports, whoa, this is from an FBI email with the subject, R.E. Epstein-cellmate interview. Here are the summaries provided by the FBI agents. About Trump. Redacted stated Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down to his exposed penis, which is subsequently bit. In response, Trump punched her in the head and kicked her out. Redacted, remember Epstein introduced her to Trump saying, "This is a good one, huh?" And Trump responded, "Yes." Now again, the response from MAGA is, these are just allegations. People could have submitted defamatory claims to get them on the FBI record at this point or that point. But then some of the things are just records of emails that couldn't have been an anonymous tip or anything like that, and were just people talking behind the scenes that often lines up with some of the allegations. But I agree, there could be false allegations. The layers of these being documented, the number of documented allegations, the timeline lining up on some of them and not other ones, and then like this one substantiating a previous document that we saw, does give more credibility as more gets released, and that should disturb you. And then we're going to come back to Howard Lutnick, because Howard Lutnick is a ginormous liar. And then there's stuff about William Barr. Redacted stated was at Epstein's for a model event, ran into Barr, who stated he wanted to see her next time he came. At another point, Epstein asked if she had ever met Barr. In TOC, Redacted claims she was a victim of Epstein and that Barr was present during some of this abuse. So just now an allegation against William Barr. Remember, Barr was the attorney general and Trump was the president whenever Epstein died in his prison cell. And Barr was tasked with investigating him. And Trump was Barr's boss. So, to the MAGA conspiracy theorists out there, if you weren't desperate to defend Trump at any cost, what would you make of those plot points? Bryan Krasenstein saying massive breaking. A witness swore under penalty of perjury that Donald Trump threatened a young girl, telling her she could disappear like another 12-year-old female, and then threatened to kill her entire family, according to Epstein-related court documents. Names the data set. This is sworn testimony. If the witness fabricated this account, they would face multiple years in federal prison for perjury. There's it. Photographed. So again, just a lot of allegations. And this is something that's really important for, you might not be seeing this based on the spaces you're in, but because I see a lot of right-wing accounts, I've been seeing so many, oh my gosh, liberals are so stupid. They think just because someone submits a complaint or a unvetted allegation that they should take that as gospel. Just remember, as we continue through these different bombshells, this, Sarah Longwell reminds us, Epstein was convicted in 2008 of procuring a child for prostitution. He was registered level 3, highest risk of reoffending sex offender in New York after 2010. Everyone emailing him and hanging out with him after that did so knowing he was a child sex trafficker. Or at least a child sex, a trafficker. So Elon's exchange with Epstein asking for an invite to the island are after Epstein was a convicted sex offender. Same with Lutnick, Bannon, Brett Ratner, etc. And that's a really important thing to remember, because you hear the response. And in a sense, it does seem like this was the assumption a lot of prominent people were going off of, which was, who knows? I've heard some things, but who knows? I'm just going to still go into business. But if you think rationally, you go, before almost all of the emails that we've been going through over the last few days and that we will today, before all of these different documented examples of people, especially people in the Trump administration, staying very close to Epstein and others and Democrats, not Joe Biden, not Obama, but was after he was already a convicted pedophile. That's not the exact terminology, but a convicted child abuser. Now he got this sweetheart plea deal, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he was already proven to engage in that behavior. And it was after that Elon's going like, take me to the wildest party, Jeff. We'll get into the next segment. Or Lutnick, after telling us that he never saw Epstein after this one interaction he had.
It's gross.
Yeah, despite living next door to him. He's showing up going, hey, I'm going to take me and my kids to the island. Literally. And then this is the other part. So that we can't forget as we continue through this. I think even in my explanation, I've forgotten that in a way. And I've been like, well, I guess that was 2010. So that was a while before. Nope. But the other thing is the right-wing influencers themselves, who were so obsessed with the Epstein files, went to the White House, got their Epstein files Part 1 binder. So many of them have gone silent now. And then lastly, before looking at more things, is this the stuff during the show I'm going to read or after? After? Okay. The other crazy thing is, a lot of the conspiracy theorists about issues like this or QAnon that would depict a global cabal of pedophilic, satanic people would create these worldviews and theories that incorporated a lot of mystery and vagueness. And when they say, we're going to go to the train station, they really mean we're going to get a kid. And there would be and you have to put all the pieces together. One of the more shocking revelations out of all this is that apparently the powerful, predatory, pedophilic elites literally just say, can I go to the island? Is it gonna be a wild party? Like, they just say it. They just say, you really picture that, they're gonna use code, and then it's like, hey, you got a fresh batch? Like, pretty obvious statements. Trump in 2012 said, gotta do something about these missing children grabbed by the perverts. Too many incidents. Fast trial, death penalty. JD Vance in 2021 said, remember when we learned that our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal child sex trafficking ring, and then that guy died mysteriously in a jail, and now we just don't talk about it? Well, he's not talking about it lately, so he just described himself. I referenced Howard Lutnick. Just a few months ago, he gave an interview and said this. Listen to it, because then I have a document to show you.
I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage?
So this is him talking about in 2005. He went to Epstein's house because he moved in next door to Epstein. Whoops. It was told by happenstance. And went in there and immediately was weirded out. And then he's going to say he never saw him again.
And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. Oh, so I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross. And so I look back.
I don't even know if we have time to once again comment on the numerous strange elements of that clip. I said at the time when we covered it originally that Lutnick was giving too much detail, and that made me suspicious. And now I'm right, because he knew he was lying. And you might think, no, he might not have known he was at a fundraiser and Epstein was there. He didn't realize. Okay, you're going to see the email. It wasn't that. It was him emailing Jeffrey Epstein himself going, can I come to the island with my kids? But already, you should be suspicious whenever someone is telling what could be a lie based on the circumstances and they give excessive detail. So then, I didn't even show the whole clip, but in the whole thing I remember he's like, and then he was 2 doors down from us. So we walked 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 6 steps. We knocked on the door, a nice wooden door, one of the little things that you could knock in. It was metal, but we didn't use it. We knocked with our knuckles. Took about 3.5 seconds for him to open the door. Sort of short. I was surprised by that. I looked at my wife. I smiled. He offered us in. They had a doormat. And you're like, you really don't want us to think you're lying here. I think you are. And now we know he was.
Oh, the deep nuance of Howard Lutnick.
Yes.
He gave me a gift.
Yes.
Of a voice.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So
that's
he
my
was-
story. A one and absolutely done.
Shut up. And then Miranda Devine the whole time. Oh, really? Oh. Someone responded, he was so troubled by what he saw that he brought 8 children
I
to
say to
Epstein Island in 2012. So let's look. What do they mean by this? BBC, U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick planned Epstein Island visit. Emails show. And let's look at the email ourselves. Hi, Jeff. 2012. In 2005, I walked into the door. I saw that he had a nice chandelier. I remember it so distinctly because I can tell you that I was so disgusted, and I knew that from that moment on, my wife and I decided we would never ever be in the same room with him. 2012. Hi, Jeff. We're landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon and planning to head over to St. Bart's, Anguilla on Monday at some point. Where are you located? What exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple, Michael and Marcy Larman, with me on my boat, and each of us has 4 children, 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old. Thanks, Howard. So, best case scenario, he's just saying, we're on a family trip, so for some reason I need to tell you the age of all of my kids and their kids. And the best case scenario is the worst case scenario. Like, Obviously, worst case scenario would be those aren't his kids and they're like being trafficked, but I'm not assuming that. It sounds like he's talking about his own kids. So he was so disgusted by Epstein that he brought and specified the ages. What was it, 8? Each of us 4 children? 8 children to Epstein's island after saying, I knew he was gross. These are psychos with at least how much they lie. This is after Epstein was already a registered sex offender against children. And he's bringing 8 children to his island. By 2012, there was already a whole stink around that island. Such pathological liars, too. Did you see here how specifically he went and we decided we would never see him again? You're emailing him. Then Sarah Longwell says that 5 years later in 2017, Jeffrey Epstein donated $50,000 to an organization in Lutnick's honor.
Yeah, they're both very...
Look at this clip now, okay? With that in mind, when Trump was asked, are members of your administration having a damage control meeting about how to handle the Epstein files? Could you do the zoom in thing on his face before I'm going to get Jade to zoom in on Lutnick's face. Watch his face as Epstein is brought up, and he desperately tries to prove to us that he's not concerned.
Very good. Mr. President. The two Kevins, very good.
Mr. President, is Vice President Vance hosting a gathering this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
Is he working on what?
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think here's the man right here.
I saw it reported today, and
what on earth is that? Look at this. There's not even a joke told, and he starts combusting into laughter.
This evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation.
I don't know.
Ugh. So weird. So dang weird. Epstein writing to Richard Kahn, attached is resume of Lutnick nanny. I'm trying to arrange a time via Peter for you to meet her. That is in 2013. That's in 2013. Not 2013. 2005, he said he never was going to talk to him again. And but despite him never interacting with him out after that, he did in this interview seem to know a heck of a lot about Epstein.
That's what his MO was, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
I assume it was on video. He had a massage room and he asked me to get a massage. I said no, but was there a camera? It would have captured me saying no, but was there a video of it? Joshua said, all of these North Korean style cabinet meetings start to hit differently when you consider that Trump could have blackmail on each of them. That's another way to look at it. Some of this is very speculative, to be clear, but I'm just saying, you start to wonder, is that why they're all so petrified of Trump? Trump was like, hey, Bondi just showed me all the stuff in there about me. That's not good for me. But there's stuff in there about you too. We don't know. A contributor Barry Weiss hired at CBS was emailing Epstein about a fresh shipment and said, pussy is low carb. The biggest problem about becoming friends with you, the life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. Plus, Barry's wife was friendly with Epstein. It's just all a big club. Then Joshua Reed Eagle said, do you remember QAnon? Okay, this one's going to blow your mind because this is kind of QAnon-esque, right? The stuff we're really learning. It's not QAnon, but it's kind of QAnon-esque. The MAGA conspiracy that originated on 4chan's poll board that claimed the country was secretly run by a satanic pedophile cult that raped and murdered children and that Donald Trump was the hero destined to expose it all. Turns out the founder of 4chan and Paul was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. His name showed up in yesterday's document dump. So maybe the QAnon conspiracy came from a place of self-guilt and projected it onto the politicians they didn't like. Because again, think about that theory. That theory was that there was an elite pedophile ring. Now, it went far beyond, because now we're going, wait, was there not an elite pedophile ring? It went far beyond the bounds of what we believe to be real, like I don't know if this was drinking the blood or something, like something even further, or like Hillary stretching the mask of a baby over her face or something like that. And all these voters believed the epitome of the evil of the Democrats was that all the Democrats and then the rhinos they didn't like, the Republicans they didn't like, were part of a pedophile ring, even ones that you have no evidence of that. And so then they had to put Trump in to drain the swamp, expose the pedophiles, defeat the deep state. And they elect Trump. And then Trump's like entire administration, it seems, are the most named people in these documents. So like the real pedophilic elites, as much as you could describe something as that, the closest thing we've ever gotten to one of these conspiracy theories is Epstein. And to take down the pedophilic elite deep state, they elected the guy who, as far as candidates for office in that year, well, this gets tricky. Was the closest friend to Epstein. Like, they picked the guy who needs to be exposed to expose. Mind-bending. One email to Epstein from someone who's redacted, which why? This gets on my nerves. Whenever they'll redact, I'm like, there's no way this is a victim emailing with Epstein. Says why, and then Epstein responds, Trump will be there, doesn't like black girls, calls them, is that a slur? I don't know. Won't go within 10 feet. So maybe that was Epstein in 2013 conspiring against Trump for his eventual political career, but seems bad. And watching all the different people who had, and again, there are people who just had business engagement with Epstein and looked the other way, and they should be judged for that, but that's a different level of judgment than others. Watching them try to explain this, like Howard Lutnick, is painful. So in Howard Lutnick's case, he at least was articulate, which made it even creepier, where he had practiced, you could tell he had practiced his response. So I'm going to take you back to 2005. Remember what was going on back then. You had this band that was popular. Just set the scene. He was already to prepare. That was one issue. Then you have Peter Thiel. So a different issue, which is he's clearly completely unprepared as to how to answer these questions. On screen, you see the email, which is Peter Thiel saying, that was fun, see you in 3 weeks, to Epstein. And this was his explanation on Rogan as to how he met Epstein.
I met Epstein a few times as well, and I think...
How'd you get introduced?
It was Reid Hoffman in Silicon Valley introduced us in 2014, but it was basically, and I didn't check, didn't ask enough questions about it, but I think there were sort of a lot of things where it was fraudulent. I do think Epstein knew a lot about taxes, and there were probably, these complicated ways you could structure a nonprofit organization, especially as a way in a marital context that I think Epstein might have known a decent amount.
Yeah, so I remember the last time I went and sat down with my business manager to talk about finances and an accountant. When I left, I emailed them and said, that was fun. See you in 3 weeks. No, I remember that. I remember we were getting deep into taxes. Is there any way we could reduce my taxable income? And I said that was fun when I left, which is what he said in the email. What a fun time. What a blast. My, what do you call it? My financial advisor His name is Kev. And I've never told Kev that I had fun with him. I've never told him I had fun with him. Because it's never fun. No, but I'm not alleging or doing it on Peter Thiel's part, other than all of them being in the wrong for associating with a guy who already was proven to be a child abuser back in 2008. But he knew about taxes. Okay, a lot of people know about taxes. Surely he wasn't that much of a savant on taxes that you're like, oh, I think he's the only one I can go to about this. Then Steve Bannon was Epstein's best friend. And I don't think enough of us are talking about this. But if you're a fan of Steve Bannon, a lot of MAGA people are, you need to stop if you care at all about this topic. He's texting out the wazoo, doing interviews with Epstein, totally doesn't care about Epstein's abuses. In one text exchange, you have Epstein. Do we know if this is Epstein? This is alleged to be Epstein. Do you know Marianne, Donald's new friend? Madeline Westerhut? Very funny. Steve Bannon says she is the receptionist. Good kid. Grundoon. Cam from RNC. And then Epstein says knee pads, doing God's work. Bannon says LMAO. Epstein said he's much more calm, but the sight of him in the residence in his undies is hard to fathom. I'll give you details when I see you. Okay, so that's alleged to be Epstein, but you have all these different conversations between Bannon and Epstein, and that should be focused on a little bit more. Brett Meiselas wrote, the more is dug up in this latest Epstein files drop, the more this release feels like a Panama Papers moment. This was not only a release showing the depraved behavior of wealthy people involved in sex trafficking, but also how they use the levers of power to get what they wanted, to manipulate public opinion and to increase their power and influence. Exactly right. CoffeeZilla responded to this headline. Slovakia's PM's national security advisor resigns over Epstein links and says, crazy that in the rest of the world, the Epstein files are actually having consequences, but in America, nobody seems to be affected. That's driving me crazy. Like, you are seeing in other countries, when someone gets caught up in the Epstein files, they resign or they lose their title or there's some backlash. And here it's like, people just move on. And we should not move on from any of this. We should not move on from the fact that apparently Kash Patel just lied under oath in a hearing. You remember him saying this?
There's no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
This is funny. I referenced sitting down with a financial advisor. Joey said, I'd rather sit with my financial advisor and watch than watch the Melania movie. True. Very fair point. No, and if Kev's watching, I have a good time with you. I do have a good time with you. I have lots of fun. But it's just not the most fun topic ever. And we do have to do the backdoor contribution, but if you want to go ahead and open up a new broker, it's like, oh my gosh, that was fun. Afterwards, and then Todd Blanche, so Kash Patel lied there. Todd Blanche comes out and goes, hey, despite the majority of the document still not being released, it's over, we're done.
Your release on Friday has already received a response from the victims, from Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I want to show the statement right now. It says, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed while the men who abuse us remain hidden and protected. This is outrageous. The Justice Department cannot claim it is finishing releasing files until every legally required document is released and every abuser and enabler is fully exposed. Will there be more releases?
I mean, look, first of all, we took great pains, as I explained on Friday, to make sure that we protected victims. We are talking about a review of 3.5 million pieces of paper that were released on Friday. Every time we hear from a victim or their lawyer that they believe that their name was not properly redacted, we immediately rectify that. And the numbers we're talking about, just so the American people understand, we're talking about 0.001% of all the materials. And we knew this. I said this on Friday, that of course the nature of this type of review was the volume of materials that were reviewed, that there would be times when this happened, and so we're working hard to make sure that we fix that, and I expect that will continue.
Will more documents be released?
We have released, there are a small number of documents, as I said on Friday, that we're waiting for a judge to say we're allowed to release because of a protective order. But this review is over. I mean, we reviewed over 6 million pieces.
This review is over. Calling it quits. Which, in a sense, given what we've learned, makes sense that they're going to go, you know what, I guess we'd rather go back to breaking the law and not releasing everything than continuing this shit show. But it's kind of like, damn it, well, there's probably even worse stuff. But in a sense, if at this point someone still doesn't have enough to say, I don't know exactly down to the allegation which ones are true and which aren't, but I've seen enough. All these people knew who he was, were all up in his business, we're all friendly with him, and for that alone, not a single one of them should be trusted in public office again. We've seen enough. So go ahead and release everything like the law demands, as opposed to saying, what are we at now? I think I did one quick check with ChatGPT, and it was like 40% maybe now after a really big tranche just got dropped, but regardless, not close to the end. And he's saying the review's over. And so I just want to thank MAGA. I just want to say thank you, or thank all the people who voted for Trump. You have now set up the American government where it feels like every other person in the administration was in some way concerningly connected to the world's most notorious, America's most notorious sex trafficker. So good job. And for the people who I haven't seen tons of reporting about, are already dealing with their own problems. So like some of them are really connected to Epstein. Some of them just have interview clips like this.
But also a sexual assault allegation from one of your former nannies. So I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Sorry. The article is a lot of garbage. The picture that they said is of me eating a dog. It's actually me eating a goat in Patagonia on a whitewater trip many years ago on the Fuleifu River. They say there's an expert. They have an expert that has identified that as a dog carcass.
Yeah,
it's just not true. So, and in terms of the other allegations, I have said this from the beginning. I am not a church boy. I am not running like that. I said I had a very, very rambunctious youth. I said in my announcement speech that I have so many skeletons in my closet that if they could all vote, I could run for king of the world. Mm-hmm. So, this Vanity Fair is recycling 30-year-old stories, and I'm not, going to comment on the details of any of them, but I am who I am.
So, did you sexually assault the nanny? And after a minute of filling time, he says, I am who I am. Trump found liable of sexual abuse. Lutnick lied about his relationship with Epstein. Elon lied about his relationship with Epstein. We'll get to that next. Melania's director is photographed with what look like girls along with Epstein. Bannon, top MAGA influencer, former Trump advisor, besties with Epstein. And all of you who voted for Trump made sure that instead of that being a bunch of random famous people that concern you about the state of powerful elites and their abuses or their relationships with abusers. Instead, it's just a Trump administration roster. Instead, it's just, here's the White House roster. What are these files? Now, again, there's other people. I referenced the CBS example, and we looked at the Bill Gates mention, and obviously Clinton, a bunch of friendship examples of him with Epstein, and all those people should be judged too. And right now we have a particularly saturated administration with people showing up in these documents, and that's because of a bunch of voters. Good job. Hey, good job. All right, before we move to the next segment, just really quickly, want to read this. Thank you so much to Lady Silvermoon. Lady E Silvermoon? One of the two. Appreciate you gifting 5 memberships. So sweet. Ronald came. It became a member by clicking the join button below. Thank you. And Bilbo said, Luke, are you doing live shows again? And he said adorable as well. They're live and adorable shows. Yes. So to explain one more time to people hopping on now, our full show is now going to be live Monday through Friday at noon Eastern. And then you can watch it whenever. We're just going to leave it up on the channel under the live tab and probably on the homepage. So you can watch it full. If you like longer form things that you can listen to while you're doing whatever, that'll be the full show. And then as you can see the individual stories, so like the first story about Melania, the second story about all the Epstein drops, what we're about to do with the Elon will then be released like you've seen it normally on the channel as individual videos if you want the more bite-sized versions. But we will do the full show live instead of it being behind a main show members only paywall. All right, let me get all reset and let's dive into this. Elon Musk has championed himself as someone who wants transparency on the Epstein files. We watched that clip many times of him sitting with Tucker and going, do you know why all these billionaires want Kamala to win? Because if Trump wins, the Epstein client list will be revealed. And Tucker's like, oh yeah. And Elon's like, yeah, that's what I want. Elon then, of course, said that Trump's not releasing the Epstein files because he's in them. That turned out to be true. And when Elon was initially mentioned, he claimed, Epstein tried to get me to go to his island and I refused. Well, now Elon has been caught in a ginormous lie. And while I'm very sensitive about not overstating what we do know, and knowing that plenty of people could have associated, still insane given what we referenced before, which is Epstein, before all these emails back in 2008, was already a sex offender, a child sex abuser, but could have associated without participating in the abuse. But I also think it's important to say, if so many of these people like Lutnick and now Elon, and definitely Trump, lie about when they stopped associating with Epstein, lie about whether or not they ever went to or wanted to go to the island, then that does force you to ask, why are they lying? What is the purpose of this lie if they're completely not feeling guilt about anything? So after he claimed publicly, Epstein tried to get me to go to his island and I refused. That's what Elon said. He then shows up in an email in 2012 where he says, probably just to Lula and me, what day or night will be the wildest party on your island? So then there's other ones of him going back and forth with Epstein. Epstein says, any plans for New York? The opening of the General Assembly has many interesting people coming to my house. Elon said, I run and lead product design engineering for 2 complicated companies. Moreover, SpaceX is about to launch what is arguably the most advanced rocket in history. Flying to New York to see UN diplomats do nothing would be unwise use of my time. And it seems that Epstein was speaking kind of in vague terminology, and Epstein and Elon didn't get it. And so Epstein responds, do you think I am retarded? Just kidding. There is no one over 25 and all very cute. So it seems like Elon took literally what Epstein was saying about the General Assembly, and Epstein was like, no, that's not what I wasn't saying hang out with. So he lied too. That is now Very, very obvious. One person said, given the new Elon mentions, like him being like, when's the wild, when can I go to that island, Jeff? Which he previously said he denied. Really? You were the one begging. And there's others that I showed you before. Makes this one a little more creepy. Do you remember when there was, how an 18-year-old Audrey Morris being reported on, and Elon said 8 or above level hotness should get an exemption. And then he had to delete that because everyone was like, dude, she's 18 and you're talking about her hotness. But not everyone finds this obvious lie that Elon told when he clearly was requesting to go to the island, not turning it down. And maybe he never got to go, but that's not the same as what he said. You do have defenders like Ian Miles Chung, who said Elon Musk has had his pick of virtually every available woman on the planet. He wouldn't need a hookup from some weird, creepy weirdo who lives on an island. And Elon responded, yup. Yup. And this is one of the dumbest way to defend someone who you should be judging for reaching out to someone who was already convicted of pedophilia. And you're associating with them like that. That by itself is already very judgeable. But the craziest way people defend even abusers, rapists, is going, but that person's hot or that person's rich. They could get a girl easily. Why'd they rape? And it's like, if at this point in your life, Ian, you don't understand that that's not even close to a rational defense of someone, then you're insane. Because would that not work for any of the people involved in this story? They were all wealthy, powerful people. So while I'm not saying I know anything for certain about Elon, it is not a defense of a powerful, wealthy person to go, there's no way they could be an abuser or make bad choices about who they associate with, because they could have sex with whoever they want. Every girl wants to sleep with Elon. Because all the people involved in this story who we definitely know, and Epstein, for example, did horrific abuses, themselves were wealthy and well-connected and could probably go pick up someone in a normal adult consensual relationship. But the point is that that's not what they're going for. Then Elon Musk posted this, since he keeps getting brought up in these files, nobody has fought harder for the release of the Epstein files and prosecutions of those who abused children more than I did. Well, you did spend a bunch of money to get the guy who elected who was riddled all over those documents, who you probably knew would actually cover them up despite you saying the opposite. Like, how can you say you've done more to get transparency on Epstein and in general protect abused children than anyone when you spent more than anyone to get Epstein's bestie elected? How could that possibly mean you were the hardest fighter for this? And then, riddle me this, bub. You are doing more than anyone to try to get transparency and get justice. And after you said Trump was in the Epstein files, that's why he's not releasing them, you deleted that post and then are back to fundraising for him and Republicans. How? There's no way you believe what you're saying then. Okay, whatever. So that's a point I think Biggest Mac said. Elon, this emotional manipulation will not work. You sponsored Trump's election. You deleted your tweet about him being in the Epstein files. You did all this with knowledge that he was in the files. To crown it all, you two were in contact with the same Epstein. You're only saying this because you got caught. You probably thought the files were never going to be released, as you were well aware of it. Had well aware it become a blackmailing tool, and Trump was going to comply with everything to avoid the release. I may have misread that. But look at this. Elon Musk pours millions more into helping Republicans keep Congress. So you can't go from alluding to Trump being a pedophile in that original post whenever they had their big breakup, delete it, never take it back, though, which is the difference. He never went, oh, whoops. He's not in the Epstein files. He was in the Lepstein files. These were different files. I got them confused. That's a big mistake. He never took it back. He just deleted the post. And now you're back to supporting him. So actually, you are as much of an enabler of this cover up as anyone else. And this is kind of, in a way, heavily on you. Because I think a lot of calculations say if you didn't dump that amount of money and skew Twitter, Trump may not have won. You may have tipped it over the edge for him. You claimed that once, that he only won because of you. And so all of what we've seen on this topic since then is a little bit on you. And some people will go, and I just want to address this one more time before we get out of this topic, then we're done with Epstein-related things for today. But we have a lot more of other stuff. But that was a very disjointed statement. But now I forgot my point, which is brilliant. Oh, a lot of people will go, okay, but was Biden not covering it up? Because we didn't see this stuff come out during him. Remember that the DOJ did not shut down the investigation of associated Epstein people and topics. Like, they did not close down the investigation into Prince Andrew, into other accomplices, until the Trump administration. So while there was an active investigation going on, an active litigation, it does make sense that things wouldn't have been revealed, because that could botch future cases and prosecutions. The Trump administration came in and pretty quickly went, oh, no, it's over. Sorry, nothing. Nope, nothing. So that actually does answer that question. But do I think some patriot should have leaked a lot of this stuff about Trump before the election to prevent him from winning? Yeah. Do I think it's kind of crazy that someone... Oh, because, if Biden officials get asked about why we didn't hear about this stuff, they'll go, well, we respected the independence of the DOJ. So we weren't going to go in, Merrick Garland wasn't going to see something damning about Trump, hand it over to the Biden team to be leaked, or leak it himself, and he's thinking, hey, the procedure is these investigations are still ongoing, and so we can't release things to the public. In a world like the one that we're in now, is that idiotic to go that much by the books when the books are being shit on? We don't got any books anymore. We don't even got a Kindle. Oh, I don't know. No, that's ridiculous to go by the books that much when they're being set on fire. It's crazy. Merrick Garland should have been like, hey, bring the Epstein files to me. Let me see some stuff. And then been like, oh, Control F Trump. Right? Command F Trump. Whatever one of it is. Searching for Trump. Leak. That's what they should have done. Yes. All right. Let me get a quick sip of water. Is there anything that I need to check in on? Oh, a little bit of something. Gloria, thank you so much for becoming a member. I appreciate it. Stoked for morning live, says Outer Space Dollface Pinzer. Stay you, LB crew. Thanks. Thank you. Ellie said, thank you. You're my coworkers now. Hell yeah. MMCS2IK said, hi, Luke. I really enjoy watching your informative and humorous videos. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Love y'all. This is going to be fun. Because then here's my dream, right? I get that a lot of people want to watch 10 to 15 minute individual stories with some crazy title forever. I get that. But I think for some portion of our audience, getting the full experience all at once, longer form, we can connect better, I can interact with you, and we can build a little bit more of a reoccurring community as opposed to just like this video gets posted and that one, and then it's just like, I think it will be really fun. I think it'll be really, really fun. So be here, noon Eastern. Let's keep going. Let's check in on Fox News Sunday, Shannon Bream's Sunday show, where Democratic Senator Chris Murphy comes on, does a pretty darn good job, makes some points to Fox News viewers who don't hear it very often. And then Lindsey Graham comes on after that and seems drunk in the morning. So we will compare and contrast two senators on the same show, on the same morning, very different vibes. Let's start with Chris Murphy.
Okay, so we're going to talk to Senator Graham in a few minutes, and I do think there are places that you guys have some agreement, body cams and those kinds of things. Seems to be some bipartisan buy-in. Now, Tom Homan went to Minneapolis this week, said he's trying to turn down the temperature there. He says, yes, states don't have to cooperate, but where they do, it can be helpful. Here's what he said.
The more agents we have in the jails, the rest of these people in the safety and security of a jail, it's safer for the officer, it's safer for the alien, it's safer for the community. So one agent can arrest a bad guy in a jail rather than sending a whole team to the community. And with all the hate and rhetoric and attack, then we got to send another team for security.
Sorry, I just want to make sure, just so everyone understands, what are the words just here?
Community, and with all the hate and rhetoric and attack, then we got to send another.
The rhetoric, the Reddit tax. They're like, it's an extra, it's like a Reddit tax. If you use Reddit, you have to get extra tax. All right.
Look, it's very Smith. I've noticed in the media.
Every time, it's so good. It's so good. I think he's saying all the hate and rhetoric and attacks.
Sending a whole team to the community, and with all the hate and rhetoric and attack, then we got to send another team.
Rhetoric. Okay.
For security. So what one agent can do in a jail, we got to send 15 or 16 guys to do.
So does that sound like a reasonable step to you? People who are in jail going to be released by a state or locality. ICE has said we got a detainer on this person. We think they're removable. Let one agent go in to the jail versus what we're seeing on the streets of Minneapolis.
I mean, come on. We're still pretending that ICE is going after dangerous people. They aren't. Right now, 70% of the people that they are detaining have absolutely no criminal record. What is happening?
Now, DHS says 70% of those they're arresting, and that's their number, do have some kind of criminal record.
What is happening in Minnesota right now is a dystopia. ICE is tear gassing elementary schools. It is disappearing legal residents into cars. It is murdering American citizens. ICE is making this country less safe, not more safe today. That is an emergency. That's why today 60% of the American people vehemently disagree with what ICE is doing, and we have to address that emergency right now. The Constitution is being abandoned by this administration right now as we speak. And so our focus over the next 2 weeks has to be reining in a lawless and immoral immigration agency in this nation. That's work that we have to do in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully it's work that Republicans and Democrats will be able to.
So that was great, right? Breaking down very substantive points in a level-headed way, in a sober way, some would describe it as, which is like a synonym for level-headed and frank, but also is a term for something else. And that something else doesn't apply to seemingly to Lindsey Graham or Tom Homan. And now I'm going to compare that. All right, so Shannon Breen, same show, same day. Lindsey Graham comes on. And actually, before you watch that clip, this was him like the day before, or at least, or a couple days before, very recently, on Sean Hannity's show, and Asen said, I'm not going to say Senator Graham is drunk because that would be unprofessional.
But they got to see us fighting. We got to give them a chance to see the difference between us and liberal Democrats. In 2 weeks, we're going to have that chance. And I can't wait till John Kennedy gets on the floor and sticks it to them about the insanity of sanctuary cities.
I can't wait till he comes up here tonight.
So he's licking himself. He's licking himself a good bit. Like a dog. And then here was one other part from that same interview.
I want sanctuary city policy to end.
I want sanctuary policy to end. Okay. So you're thinking, who cares? Isn't Sean Hannity's show at like 9 p.m. Eastern or something? Sometimes you gotta get a little drunk before an interview. That's one thing. But then he's on the morning show. Let's see. Before we do that, let's see. Shannon Bream, Fox News, Sunday time. Let's just see. Broadcast Sunday mornings. Isn't that great? Did not tell me what time on Sunday. So I will just move forward. But Monday mornings before noon, for sure. Let's see what's going on with him. Do you have anything to refute Chris Murphy?
Democrats say they're going to push for it.
Well, what we're going to do is, I'm not going to agree. That would grind it to a halt.
So we're already 4 sentence starters, 0 sentence enders in 5 seconds. Now, the only reason I'm laughing is because I want to, but that doesn't take away from that. If there's a problem here, I feel bad, and I'm sensitive to it, and it's a serious issue. I just think he's a mess. I'm not actually making any statements about what that is. So let's just have fun. I don't want to hear like, we just learned that he has a real problem. Oh, well, shoot. That makes it sad, but
I'm not going to agree. That would grind it to a halt. What we're going to do is, I'm not going to agree. That would grind it to a halt. If you had a judicial warrant and all these things, you couldn't deal with mass. We're not dealing with we're trying to get people out of the country who have no right to be here, Judge. Have people who are illegal immigrants. You remember Kim Davis?
I do.
Okay, who's Kim Davis, folks? Nothing to do with illegal immigration. Kim Davis was a clerk of court in Kentucky. The Supreme Court ruled that the law of the land was that gay marriage was legal. That gay marriage was recognized under the U.S. Constitution. If you didn't recognize gay marriage, you violated the Equal Protection Clause. She's a religious conservative. People applied, 2 gay guys applied for a marriage license. She said she wouldn't issue it, even though it was the law of the land. She went to jail. I was asked, what about it? Well, I agree with her political, philosophical, not her religious views, but she's a public official. She has to do this. You can't.
This is brutal. Her political, philosophical, well, not her religious views. No, he means her religious views. He's trying to say, I agree with her religious views, but as a matter of law, she's a public official and she should follow the law. I love the beginning when, well, I don't agree, and not to the, so the thing is, and that's what I'm doing. And my name is Rufus, and that's the Drufus. That's po down, ho down. What's the thing that I couldn't remember the name of? That's a bayou, tie you. What's the? I can't remember what it is. Reminder, everyone. I'm from the South. I can say these things. Okay. My underskin is hotter than Snow White.
Change the law because.
So my point is, I can say those things.
You disagree with it. She went to jail. She should have. I think it's a defining moment in his presidency. Ronald Reagan went to the Berlin Wall and he said, tear down this wall. He didn't say, could you make it lower? Biggest thing you could possibly ever do to the Mideast is take this regime down, and they're as weakest they've ever been since 1979. Mr. President, you can do it. I hope you will do it. And if you do it, this is Reagan plus.
Okay.
He's trying to say Reagan plus. What is this?
Do it. This is Reagan plus.
Okay.
The wheels on the bus of Reagan's bus round and round, round and round. The wheels on the Reagan bus go round all through the town. Maybe don't use. Never mind. So that's a big difference, right? Chris Murphy, you're like, okay, he's explaining ICE is making us less safe. Here's the things they've done. Oh, here's your counterpoint. Lindsay's just kind of saying a lot of mumbo jumbo. Now, I guess his point is that the Kim Davis example substantiates how even if you disagree with a particular law, you have to follow it. But I don't think many people are going to notice the point he was trying to make based on his vibe. So I don't know. He does seem like he's in for. This is either really sad or kind of happy, which is he either had the most fun night of his life. Right? Like if you start before a Fox interview at whatever, 9 p.m. and you're partying all the way through the night to the point where at like 10 in the morning for your next interview, you're still drunk. That could just be a real fun, like he's probably the the maid of honor in a friend's wedding. And so he probably was at a bachelorette party and was like, tonight we don't have anything but party. And he drank, he drank, you know, the pink drink at Starbucks? He does a pink drink and vodka, which is psychotic, but he just definitely does that, and got hammered. And at the end of right after this Fox interview, all night he's been drinking pink drink. It's called, it's a drink from Starbucks, and vodka. And he walks out of barely cut to commercial, and just is just pink all over Shannon Breen. And that could either be the funnest night of his life. He's the maid of honor of his life for his friend. He's doing the thing. Bachelorette party, great. He partied through the night. That's a one-time thing. Or he's spiraling, and this is some really sad event. And he does seem in for that, meaning, given his life, he's been the senator, and then he totally humiliated himself. MAGA doesn't like him. Liberals don't like him. He completely lied about all of his views to get back in the good graces of Trump. He has to be Trump's little like lapdog bitch, and everyone's making fun of him for numerous reasons. He does seem kind of in for a public collapse. Just a real fallen star moment, you know? All right. A little bit more reviewing of Fox News to do. Pete Buttigieg went on Fox, which is always fun to watch. And we will watch some clips. Let's start with this.
At a time when we have these shocking events in Minnesota, right? When you have American citizens being arrested, being gunned down, something that I think can bring a lot of people together. Watching somebody exercising their First Amendment rights and Second Amendment rights. I know my party doesn't talk about the Second Amendment as much, but I think seeing an American taken to the ground, having his gun removed, and then after having his gun removed, being shot in the back up to 10 times, and then having the government say that he was a terrorist all along, based on no evidence besides the fact that he was a lawful concealed carry holder. I think those are the kinds of things that, as painful as they are, can actually bring together a lot of Americans to say, hey, we need a different direction. Or even if you do usually vote Republican, we need some balance in our government so that you got a Congress that isn't just a rubber stamp, that can exercise some oversight over an administration that's gotten out of control.
Now, this clip, he did a good job. You can tell the notable part. I didn't even see, this is going off of accounts that clipped the interview, so I didn't even see what came before this, but found it substantive what he said in the clip. But then look at that lower third chyron. Buttigieg on whether trans athletes should compete in women's sports. And it's like, this should be the model, I think. I didn't see the first part of his answer, but you're going to have to answer the question. Don't do the weird squirrely thing, but then try to make sure that you contrast it against what you think should be getting a little bit more emphasis. So it's such a Fox News thing to do in the moment we're currently in, the chaos that we're currently in, to be like, now Pete Buttigieg, what do you think about the 3.2 trans athletes in an American state? And it's like, all right, cool, I'll give you the answer. Yeah, leagues should be able to make a decision, ensure fairness, fine, great. But like, what are you talking about? We should also prioritize dignity and respect for people. What are you talking about? So 2 people just got shot in the streets by our government. What? You want to keep talking about this? Or should we go list of most pressing to least pressing? What are we thinking here? Oh no, just most salacious to least seems like your priority. Then another clip.
6% of Democrats have a favorable view of socialism, and I'm wondering what your response is to that and how you'll handle it on the trail.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's kind of just become a label and sometimes name calling, where the really important thing is to figure out what candidates actually stand for. It's not surprising that you're going to have a different kind of Democrat winning in a place like New York City than you might in a place like New Jersey or Virginia or northern Michigan, where I live, or the other places we're going to be competing. But what I'm finding is that even though we're a big tent and different Democrats sometimes have different answers, we're asking the same question, and I think it's the right question, which is, how do we make life more affordable in this country? This president took office promising that he was going to make life more affordable on day one. He said grocery prices would go down. They've gone up. Energy prices are up while he's killing utility projects that would create more energy generation. Obviously, we're really in a painful place as a country right now on healthcare, where a big issue in the midterms will be, why did so many congressional Republicans vote to cut Medicaid while they were giving tax cuts to
Something is cracking me up about Kayleigh McEnany just blankly staring into the teleprompter this whole time. Like, is any of what he's saying clocking? Is it clocking to you, Kayleigh? Did y'all see Bieber's performance last night?
It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
It's not. And standing in your boxers. It was honestly a great performance at the Grammys. So check it out. And I grabbed my lip while I was saying that. I don't just mean because of his body. I mean the music. I was thinking about listening to the music with my eyes. No. But Kayleigh's just sort of blankly staring silently.
Some of the wealthiest Americans. And why do they refuse?
This was me watching Bieber last night. Ready? Kayleigh. I'm Kayleigh.
To extend the tax credits that will help with everybody's premiums going up. The House voted to do it. The Senate GOP refuses, and the president, I think, could solve that with one phone call, but he just won't. So these are the kinds of issues that I've been hearing about. Certainly that event you mentioned when I was in Wisconsin, really around the country, and I think they're going to drive the election this year.
Yeah, we did an election on transports. And plenty of Democrats botched what their answer should be, and that's fine to note. And a country that does an election, when you have one of the candidates saying terminate the Constitution, on trans sports, is a deeply irrational country. And now, we want to protect the kids. That's why we talk so much about trans sports. And now Epstein files are being released. Trump, I think we could say, is a predator, at the very least. So good job. Good job. The priorities you focused on really freaking were terrible, weren't they? And Kamala would be like, I'm not going to do anything differently than whatever it is. That what? She get asked about that issue and be like, freaking, I don't know. Do whatever the hell y'all want. Like, about leagues. I've never heard Democrats be like, we need to prevent higher level leagues from restricting for whatever fairness standards. Never heard it. And then she would get asked about that clip of her saying, which was happening during the Trump administration, that there'd be taxpayer funded surgeries because it would fall under healthcare in prisons. And she was like, I'm just going to follow whatever the law already was. I'm not changing anything. I'm not going to do any extra things for any trans person in prison. And they were like, brah! And that apparently had a multiple point impact on the election. You're letting that ad, as she's not even really standing by what she said in it, swing the election when the other guy's like, hey, we're going to send the military after my political enemies. Hell yeah. Hey, terminate the Constitution. Hey, you know how we're going to drive up? We don't know how we're going to drive down prices. We're going to drive them up. That's how we're going to drive them down. We're going to drive them up with tariffs. And then So hey, if you are one of the people who were like, that my daughter who doesn't play sports could get into a sport with the trans person that I've never met in a league that might already restrict out trans people, at least, in most circumstances. So, and Kamala doesn't even necessarily have any way she wants to change it. So I'm voting for Trump, and then we've gotten here, and you're not happy with the economy, and you realize Trump's kind of just a pedophile. Oh, but we don't know for... Shut up, would you, for a second? Let me ask you this. Okay, let's do this. Ready? If I told you that last night I was in a Sprinter van with 5 Nazis screaming "Hail Hitler," would you think I was a Nazi? Probably. Andrew Tate. I just described that right-wingers night out they had where they were singing that song. So similarly, if I told you that I was best friends with 7 pedophiles, would you assume I was a pedophile? Yeah, that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. And if on top of that there were all these allegations against you, you get my point. So, hey, good job, guys. Good job on prioritizing a sliver of a percent of an issue over all the issues that impact everyone. Very rational. But anyways, that was a good point from Pete. I think you get the point. I just wanted to give you a little taste of his Fox News appearance. All right. Trump's social media feed is wild as ever, and I wanted to show you this video where some fan of his made an edit saying, "Shut the F up and trust Trump," to any of the right-wingers who now criticize him. I'll show you that, and then I'll show you his latest meltdown as well.
Do you remember what it was like when the 2020 election was rigged and stolen? Do you remember all the bullshit stories people told you about how the fraudulent election would be overturned? Do you remember the symbols of tyranny when fences went up around D.C. for Joe Biden's inauguration? Do you remember watching fuel and food prices skyrocket in a matter of months? Do you remember watching our borders being invaded by a virtual army of unidentified criminals? Do you remember watching our nation get systematically destroyed for 4 years by the Joe Biden autopen administration? Do you remember longing for the days of winning when we had Donald Trump in the White House? Do you remember thinking he was going to die when the bullet aimed at his brain only grazed his ear? Do you remember rejoicing after witnessing the miracle that saved his life? Do you remember celebrating the epic landslide victory in November of 2024? This is what you hoped for. This is what you prayed for. This is what you voted for. So why are you questioning every decision he makes?
So now for podcast listeners, Alex Jones is on screen as an example of someone questioning his every move.
That he's back in office. God didn't save his life so he could make mistakes. He knows what he's doing. Maybe it's time to shut the fuck up and let him cook. This has been a public service announcement paid for by the Dilly Meme team.
So Trump posted that says, "Shut the F up and let him cook," about himself. And obviously there was a lot of misinformation that the election was not stolen. Prices didn't spike because Biden was elected. They spiked because of pandemic conditions and recovery efforts like they did globally. Biden didn't spend 4 years destroying everything. What else? And it is not rational to shut the F up and let him cook. That also is not rational. So I found that interesting, where apparently Trump's getting fed up with even people who were previously his big supporters starting to question, wait, does he really have some master plan here? And that video is trying to tell you he does have a master plan. We all know at this point he doesn't. And if you haven't lost faith in him, especially people, as we've talked a lot about in the show, who made Epstein such a key point for them, who all of a sudden are very silent on it, I do not understand the rationality of still believing Trump has some master plan, even just with that issue alone, seeing the rollout of it. But in general, he's proven himself not to have some 4D chess, brilliant long-term play here. And I don't think you can believe someone who's this childish and petty, like in this next post, would be thinking in a 4D chess type of way. Look at this. The Grammy Awards, apparently he was watching last night, are the worst. Virtually unwatchable. CBS is lucky not to have this garbage litter their airwaves any longer. The host, Trevor Noah, whoever he may be, that's who he is almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel at the low ratings Academy Awards. Noah said incorrectly about me that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Epstein Island. Wrong. I can't speak for Bill, but I have never been to Epstein Island nor anywhere close, and until tonight's false and defamatory statement, I've never been accused of being there, never even been by the fake news media. Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight and get them straight fast. It looks like I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of an MC and suing him for plenty of money. Ask little George Slopanopoulos and others how that all worked out. Also ask CBS. Get ready, Noah. I'm going to have some fun with you. President DJT. I don't know why he says that. That's always so weird. I'm going to have some... I did not do anything wrong with Epstein, but I'm going to have some fun with you. Kind of a strange thing to toss in there. I'm sure he won't end up suing Trevor Noah, but maybe. But again, can one of these people get sued by Trump and take this all the way to trial? Because you'd win, obviously. He literally was telling a joke at a show where he's supposed to tell jokes at. And he didn't even say Trump was at the island. I think he said something like Trump needs Greenland because now something about Epstein, he needs a new island or something like that to hang out at. But again, it was a joke. And this is Trump's one hammer. Sue, or threaten to sue. Plus, yeah, maybe you didn't need to go to Epstein's Island because he was always hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. So you didn't have to go all the way there for that. Some miscellaneous updates you need to hear about real quick. You know how we knew something about UAE, Trump's crypto, he made money with some deal, then they got an AI chips benefit. Now we have more specifics. Senior UAE royal secretly purchased 49% stake in Trump's World Liberty Financial for $500 million 4 days before the inauguration. This is a absolutely mind-bending example of corruption. Spy chic, very chic, bought secret stake in Trump company. $500 million investment for 49% of World Liberty came months before UAE won access to tightly guarded American AI chips. This is like every law we've ever had, every oversight hearing, every inspector general, all of it has been to prevent a tenth of this. The investment was backed by Sheikh Tahnoon bin Zayed Al Nahyan, an Abu Dhabi royal who has been pushing the U.S. for access to tightly guarded, you'll put this up, Jaden, artificial intelligence chips, according to people familiar with the matter. Tahnoon, sometimes referred to as the spy sheikh, is brother to the United Arab Emirates president, the government's national security advisor, as well as the leader of the oil-rich country's largest wealth fund. He oversees a more than $1.3 trillion empire, funded by his personal fortune and state money. So the deal marks something unprecedented in American politics. A foreign government official taking a major ownership stake in an incoming U.S. president's company. So you have this. They invest a bunch of money in Trump's World Liberty Financial 4 days before the inauguration. And then something that wasn't working for them under the Biden administration, which is handing over the AI hardware, which had been largely stymied over fears that the sensitive technology could be diverted to China. They then get Trump to flip that position of the Biden administration, which they really, really wanted. 2 months after the March meeting, the administration committed to giving the tiny Gulf monarchy access to around 500,000 of the most advanced AI chips a year. So, try not to blow up. But here's the Deputy Attorney General going, what about Biden?
I want to ask you about a report breaking in the Wall Street Journal overnight. I want to show the headline right now. It's the headline saying the spy sheik bought secret stake in Trump company, $500 million investment for 49% of World Liberty came months before UAE won access to tightly guarded American AI chips. It's referring to the National Security Advisor to the UAE, Sheikh Tahnoon, and he made this investment just before President Trump was inaugurated. The article goes on to say the deal marks something unprecedented in American politics. A foreign government government official taking a major ownership stake in an incoming U.S. president's company. This is the company of President Trump's family. Eric Trump is the president of the company. President Trump is listed as the founder emeritus, though he's not running it directly right now. How do you respond to those who say this is a serious conflict of interest?
I love it when these papers talk about something being unprecedented or never happening before, as if the Biden family and the Biden administration didn't do exactly the same thing and they were just in office. So, look, I saw that article.
Okay. You are a absolutely shameless, insane, delusional, psychotic liar if you ever say something like that. If you ever see someone on the news, in your personal life, say, well, that's just like what Biden did, they are either clinically insane or a liar. Also love everyone. That's important too. But they're also those things. Think about the logic for a second first. If Todd Blanche were correct, which he's not, then he would be saying Trump is the Trump crime family, because he just said that Trump is now doing, the wording he used was exactly what Biden just did, which Republicans said was criminal. So he would be saying Trump is just as bad of a criminal as Biden because they're doing the exact same thing. But now, remember, Biden never had any stake in any business of Hunter's that made him significant money. Nothing. Didn't happen. There was never a link between any decision Hunter Biden made and a Joe Biden policy. And all the money Hunter Biden made is like a little kid's allowance compared to the money Trump is making. And that was Hunter making like little piggy bank versus Trump's entire real bank of money that he's making off of this. And again, that was Hunter. This would be like Joe Biden having Biden Financial. This would be like Biden having a company called World Liberty Financial. And a UAE leader investing hundreds of millions in Biden's World Liberty Financial, and then Biden giving them super sensitive AI chips that they were really concerned about giving to them for a long time. Now get this. It wasn't Biden, it was Trump. So for you to say this is like what Biden did makes me so angry, because you know that's not true. And you know we've never seen this ability to just hand buckets of cash to the president, not to a kid who could, but to the president. Really for no reason other than being like, hey, be nice to me. And then he'd be nice to you. And then he actually does the thing. It was so secret they wanted the chips. And then he gave it to them. If this were Biden, he would have been impeached by now. And maybe other Democrats would have gotten on board with the impeachment and removed him from office. Unbelievable. What about Joe Biden? Then you have Jake Tapper reporting that Trump is suing the federal government for $10 billion. Billion with a B. And he's suing the IRS for leaking, some official leaked Trump's tax returns, which is how we learned that multiple years he didn't pay like anything in federal income taxes. And so Trump did this, or threatened to do it, with the DOJ based on him being prosecuted. He's now doing it with the IRS, wanting them to give him $10 billion. But if the federal government gives him as a private citizen $10 billion, who's paying for that? We are. So he'd just be taking our taxpayer money and taking it for himself. And while it's true, it's illegal to leak people's private tax information when you work at the IRS. Why did it even leak? Because Trump was breaking with a very long line, or a very long history of norms that presidential candidates release their tax returns voluntarily to show the public nothing in there suspicious. Trump didn't, so then at least parts of his tax returns were leaked. Then going through, because in this world it's hard to even spend much time on all the different scandals. You have this headline: classified whistleblower complaint about Tulsi Gabbard stalls within her agency. Apparently, a U.S. intelligence official has alleged wrongdoing by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard in a whistleblower complaint that is so highly classified, it has sparked months of wrangling over how to share it with Congress, so we don't know what's in it. A cloak and dagger mystery is swirling around the complaint, which is said to be locked in a safe. Disclosure of its contents could cause grave damage to national security. It also implicates another federal agency beyond Gabbard's. So right now we don't know what it is, but there's some highly classified in a safe behind a guard under a mountain or something, bookshelf that you pull a book and it opens, you go through that door, complaint, something about Tulsi Gabbard, wrongdoing that would be damaging to national security. Gabbard says, no. That was her comment, essentially. Let's go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for watching and listening to today's show. I appreciate you greatly. Again, podcast listeners, nothing is changing for you. Everyone else, you'll still get the videos of each individual segment we talk about in each day's show uploaded on YouTube. But I do encourage you to tune in live as you just did, or watch it later. It'll be left up on the YouTube channel, the live tab. You can watch the full thing while you're doing whatever in the background or on the TV to get the full show all at once. No longer behind a paywall. Whoop, whoop. The bonus show is, though, only for members every day, Monday through Friday. Sometimes we switch around and do a little Sunday or Saturday instead of one of the weekdays, but usually 5 extra bonus shows a week, which is very fun, and it gets pretty unhinged. Thank you all. Talk to you next time.